One of the most prominent lessons I've learned in my life is that the pendulum swings both ways. Even if you can't perceive it, can't see it in real time, the pendulum always swings from one extreme to the other. Situations get completely reversed. There's no situation or perception that ever remains static. Things will constantly change. And I feel like this applies to even trivial areas of life, like sport, particularly boxing. I feel like the reactionary nature of boxing fans is a good example of this, how things can go from one extreme to the other. And in recent years, particularly in the heavyweight division, we've seen that pendulum swing back and forth quite rapidly in some instances. And I preface this video with this because I feel like that's what we're seeing right now. You know, if we go back a couple of days, we see Anthony Joshua scoring a highlight reel knockout over Francis Ngannou. Many people saying that that's how Anthony Joshua, or that's how a boxer should have dealt with an MMA fighter. People saying that Anthony Joshua has cleaned up Tyson Fury's mess, using words like this, of course. And once again, we see how the perceptions of Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou, and Anthony Joshua, if we focus on this trio, how they're changing. Because a few years ago, Anthony Joshua was, in the UK, a national hero. He was on top of the world, unified world champion, selling out stadiums time and time again, loved by fans, loved by the boxing public, and kind of transcending that and being loved by the public generally. And Tyson Fury, nobody really paid that much mind. They didn't take him seriously. They thought he was a bit of a clown, you know, someone who was quite rough around the edges and was a bit more edgy with his sense of humour. But now those two have been on different trajectories. Anthony Joshua suffered a couple of losses, put in some less than stellar performances, looked vulnerable, and people started to jump off the bandwagon, and they didn't treat him with the same respect. But then Tyson Fury was making his dramatic comeback from alcohol, drug abuse, and depression. And all of a sudden, Tyson Fury is now on top of the world. The Gypsy King. He's the best there's ever been. Anthony Joshua has been. Oh, he was never that good anyway. But now public perception is changing once again. And particularly after Friday, Anthony Joshua is seen as being the man. You know, he dealt with Francis Ngannou the way a boxer should. He was representing boxing. He's cleaning up Tyson Fury's mess. And Tyson Fury is losing stock pretty much day after day at this rate. And that is just how things seem to be unfolding. And I see myself as a bit of a Thanos type character in the YouTube boxing community, where sometimes I need to snap my fingers and restore balance. And I do that with objectivity. I don't care about loyalty for a particular fighter. I don't know these fighters. I don't care to know them. But I'm not going to disrespect the truth. It's all about being objective. It's about context. It's about considering factors and analysing what's in front of you. And one thing I've been seeing in the lead up to this Anthony Joshua Francis Ngannou fight, but even now, after it's said and done and people are giving their opinions and their impressions of the kind of situation and the heavyweight landscape, particularly amongst these three fighters, and that is when people express their opinion that Tyson Fury underestimated Francis Ngannou and didn't prepare and is clearly sliding as a fighter, he's deteriorating. People interpret that as trying to take away credit from Francis Ngannou, which just simply isn't the case. And now I hold that opinion myself, in the sense of I believe Tyson Fury versus Ngannou was a competitive fight because Tyson Fury wasn't prepared for it. But that's not taken away from Francis Ngannou. He still went in there and tried to put hands on Tyson Fury. He still had the intention of winning that fight and trying to do damage to Tyson Fury, and he deserves massive credit as an 0-0 boxing novice to go in there against the reigning world champion. Deserves credit. This is someone who has put his life on the line in the ring to make his life outside the ring better. Got nothing but the utmost respect for Francis Ngannou, but you can't ignore the signs that Tyson Fury was ill-prepared, wasn't focused on Francis Ngannou, and has deteriorated as a fighter. That's not excusing Tyson Fury. That's not coping for him. It's not fanboying for him and trying to defend him. Absolutely not. It's the opposite. It's critiquing Tyson Fury. It's highlighting his particular weaknesses. That's the difference. We're not trying to defend Tyson Fury. We're trying to be objective and, as I say, restore that balance and say, this is why Tyson Fury can lose. This is why he's vulnerable, just as vulnerable as any of his contemporaries. It's the opposite of fanboying. Because if you look at the heavyweight division as a whole, there are some amazingly talented fighters. A lot of so many talented fighters with some formidable strengths, but also some glaring limitations, some glaring weaknesses. There is no monolithic champion in this era of heavyweight boxing. It is stacked, and each of these guys are going to trade wins and losses, draws, upsets, tough fights, exactly as we've seen unfold. And that's all it is. Tyson Fury, if you look at him as a fighter, and his personality as a fighter, yeah, he's immensely talented and he's got great fighting instinct. That's probably Tyson Fury's most defining strength, is his ability to perform under pressure. However, when that pressure isn't present and, he doesn't perceive that threat from an opponent, we see that he cuts corners. We see that he's not really mentally tuned into a fight and he lacks discipline. Those are Tyson Fury's psychological weaknesses. And it's led him to perform poorly. And outside the ring, he's not the most professional. He cuts corners when he doesn't perceive his opponent as a great enough threat. He lacks that professionalism. He lacks that discipline. That is Tyson Fury's unique weakness in his psychological makeup. And it obviously manifests itself physically in his performances. So I just have to reiterate once again, it's not about defending Tyson Fury and making excuses for why he struggled with Francis Ngannou. It's not about that. It's about placing Tyson Fury in the heavyweight picture and saying, okay, this guy's good. He's a champion. He's very talented. He's got some formidable strengths, but he's just as vulnerable as his contemporaries. And that is the polar opposite to fanboying. That is the polar opposite to excusing a fighter. No, that's where he fits in. He's just like everyone else. He isn't invincible. And so I don't want to wax lyrical about that point too much, but that's just me counteracting this. Oh, you're making excuses for Tyson Fury. You're part of the problem. No, we're not. We're trying to maintain balance in terms of the perception of these fighters. The same way that I've got to give credit to Hatman and G-Man. I think it was both of them, but at least one of them said that when people see how easily Anthony Joshua deals with Francis Ngannou, they're going to start to jump on his bandwagon again. And that's exactly what we've seen happen. Oh, Anthony Joshua, he's the king. He's going to get back to the top. If we're looking at British heavyweight boxing, he's the best again, even though he's not champion. And we've seen just that. And it's not about being Nostradamus. This is about paying attention and seeing how people's perceptions, their minds can be so easily swayed by promotion and bravado, and how if something doesn't go how they expect, that pendulum swings back. The perception gets flipped on its head. All of a sudden, everything's reversed. That's exactly what we see in the heavyweight division. But part of it is because people buy into the hype of fighters, believing that they're invincible, when they're far from it. They're extremely vulnerable. And they're vulnerable in a very, very competitive division. That's all it is. And these guys are going to continue to trade wins, losses, draws, upsets if they carry on fighting at the highest level. And that's going to be the if for Tyson Fury, because he hasn't been too keen to take on the best available competition. Because we saw that in the Francis Ngannou fight. He didn't perceive Francis Ngannou as a threat. He thought it was going to be easy money, laughing all the way to the bank, so he didn't prepare properly. On top of his steady decline as a top-level fighter. Francis Ngannou having the element of surprise too, being a bit of an unknown quantity in boxing standards. But then can't replicate that same success against Anthony Joshua, who stylistically is very different. Stylistically has strengths that Tyson Fury doesn't have. Once again, it's not about fanboying for Tyson Fury, because if we acknowledge that he has weaknesses of his own and other fighters like Anthony Joshua have strengths that Tyson Fury doesn't have, that's not fanboying, is it? Because we're giving credit where it's due. We're giving criticism where it's due. Not getting caught up in the personality and the hype around a certain fighter. But Anthony Joshua had strengths that Tyson Fury hasn't got, and he was able to impose those on Francis Ngannou. And not having the same element of surprise. It's not about taking credit away from Francis Ngannou. The man's gone in there with two top flight heavyweights in a sport where he has very limited experience. The man deserves maximum credit. But that, once again, is only half of the equation. You have to address the other half, which will be his opponent. Whether it's Anthony Joshua, whether it's Tyson Fury. Giving a critical appraisal of either one of those guys. But anyway, laboured the point a little bit. It's not about fanboying. It's about being objective. And so when we point out Tyson Fury's shortcomings, that's what being objective is. You know, not just heaping praise on him, not just heaping praise on any fighter endlessly. But anyway, I'm sure you guys get it. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And yeah, for now, thanks for listening. And I'll catch you in the next video.